The night was quiet over the alien palace, but the silence was heavy with danger. Captain Arik crouched behind a high wall, his heart beating fast as he scanned the glowing towers ahead. Every shadow seemed alive, every distant sound made him tense. He had one mission: rescue the young Princess Liara before the warlords decided her fate. The risk was enormous, but he could not leave her to suffer. Liara sat in a small, guarded chamber, her hands trembling as she stared at the cold metal walls. Her eyes were wide with fear. She had heard rumors of humans being cruel, yet somehow, hope whispered in her heart, a strange feeling that someone from another world could save her. She had never felt this before. The guard's steps echoed outside, and she hugged her knees tighter. Feeling small and helpless, Arik moved silently, avoiding the patrols that passed the outer wall. His military training kept him calm, but every step forward was a test of nerves. He checked his communicator, ensuring no one would hear him. The glow from the palace towers reflected on his armor, making him look almost like a ghost in the dark. He could see Liara through a narrow window, tears in her eyes, and he felt a surge of determination. He whispered her name softly, Princess Liara, hoping she would understand he meant no harm. She flinched at first, thinking it was another trick. Who are you?" she asked in a trembling voice, her eyes wide with terror. Arik held up a small emblem of peace, a token he had carried from the human command. "I am here to save you," he said, his voice steady but quiet. "You are not alone." The guards outside the chamber grew suspicious, their footsteps quickening. Alarms were silent for now, but any noise could alert the entire palace. Arik had calculated every movement, every shadow, yet he knew one wrong step could mean death for both of them. He climbed the outer wall, using a grappling hook to reach the window. The cool metal scraped against his gloves, his heart raced. Every second felt like minutes. Liara hesitated, fear and hope warring inside her. She wanted to trust him, yet every instinct told her to hide, to run, to scream. Arik extended his hand through the window, his eyes kind and patient. "Take my hand," he urged. "We must leave now." The guard's footsteps grew louder, and the tension in the room thickened like smoke. Her small hand shook as she reached out, finally touching his, feeling the warmth of human skin for the first time. As they climbed through the narrow window, a guard shouted from down the hall, "Stop them!" Alarms blared. Red lights flashed through the corridors. Chaos erupted in the palace. Arik pulled Liara close, shielding her with his body, running through the hidden tunnels that twisted beneath the palace, the walls damp and cold, the smell of metal and moss filling their noses. Liara's fear turned into adrenaline, and she ran beside him, trusting him completely. They came to a junction, two paths before them, one leading to a trap, the other to freedom. Arik hesitated for a moment, then chose the left path. The walls seemed to close in as they moved quickly. Footsteps echoed behind them, closer and closer. Liara's heart pounded in her chest, but Arik's calm presence gave her courage. She whispered, "Will we make it?" He nodded. "We must, I promise." A sudden noise made them stop. A patrol turning the corner, Arik grabbed Liara and pressed her against the wall, holding his breath as the guards passed. The tension was unbearable. Every second stretched endlessly, but their luck held, and soon the guards moved on. Unaware of their escape, Arik exhaled slowly, whispering encouragement, "Keep moving, Princess. We are almost there." Finally, they reached a hidden exit, a small hatch leading to the outside world. The cool night air rushed in and Liara gasped. Tears streaming down her face, relief and fear mixed together. Arik helped her through the hatch and they fell onto the soft grass outside. Free but not yet safe. The palace loomed behind them, lights flashing in the distance. The sound of alarms fading but still present. Their journey had just begun. Liara looked at Arik, her eyes shining with gratitude and confusion. Why are you helping me?" she asked softly, her voice trembling with emotion. Arik smiled faintly. "Because it is right," he said simply. "No one should suffer like this, no matter who they are." She blinked, tears falling freely, her heart touched by the humanity of a soldier from a distant world. In that moment, fear and distrust began to melt, replaced by a fragile trust that would guide them forward. As they disappeared into the dark forest surrounding the palace, the tension lingered, danger was still near. Yet the first spark of hope had ignited, a human and an alien princess, bound together by courage and destiny. Running toward an uncertain future, the audience is left on the edge of suspense, wanting to know if they will survive the night and what challenges lie ahead. The forest was dark and alive with strange sounds. Captain Arik led Princess Liara carefully, their footsteps light on the soft ground. Every shadow seemed to watch them. The wind rustled through the alien trees, carrying distant noises that made Liara shiver. She clung to Arik's arm, trusting him more with every step, yet fear still lingered. "Stay close," Arik whispered, scanning the area, his eyes sharp for any movement. The alien patrols were not far behind. They had guards and scouts everywhere, even in places humans thought were safe. Liara nodded, trying to keep quiet, her heart racing. The adrenaline of escape mixed with fear. She had never felt so alive and so helpless at the same time. They reached a narrow canyon, jagged rocks rising like teeth from the ground. Arik paused, pointing to a hidden path that curved along the cliff. "This way," he said. "It is dangerous, but faster." Liara's stomach twisted at the height and the sheer drop beside them, yet she followed, gripping his arm tightly, trusting his judgment. Every step required balance and courage. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the canyon. An alien predator, eyes glowing in the dark, stepped onto the path ahead, its claws scraping the rocks. Liara froze in terror, but Arik stepped forward. Drawing a small energy weapon, the creature hissed, circling them, teeth bared, its movements quick and deadly. Arik fired a few shots, forcing it back temporarily. The tension was unbearable. Liara's voice trembled. I'm scared," she admitted softly, hiding behind Arik. He placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "I know, but we must move quickly," he said, guiding her along the cliff path, their pace careful yet urgent. The predator followed at a distance, waiting for an opening. Every step was life or death. Hours passed as they moved through dense forests and rocky terrain, exhaustion creeping into their bodies. Liara's small hands were raw from gripping Arik, her face streaked with tears and dirt. Yet she refused to fall behind. She felt the courage growing inside her, inspired by Arik's calm determination. Every shadow, every distant noise, reminded them of the danger surrounding them. A sudden whistle broke the silence. A patrol scout ahead on a ridge. Arik froze, signaling Liara to stay low. They crouched behind rocks, barely breathing. The scout moved slowly, unaware of the pair hidden in the shadows. Liara's heart pounded, fear making her chest tight. Arik's eyes scanned for another path. Then he pointed to a narrow hidden crevice. "Quickly this way," he whispered. They crawled through the tight opening, Liara scraping her knees yet moving as fast as she could. The patrol passed, unaware of their presence. Relief washed over her for a moment, but Arik remained vigilant, scanning the area for other threats. "We are not safe yet," he reminded. Her nod silent, but her eyes showed understanding. Danger was everywhere, and trust was their only shield. As night fell, the landscape became more alien, glowing plants lighting their path dimly, strange sounds echoing through the trees. Liara whispered, "Do humans always risk so much for others?" Arik glanced at her. "Not always," he admitted, "but sometimes. Doing the right thing is more important than safety." She thought about this, her fear mixed with admiration, realizing that humans could be brave and kind. Even to aliens, they reached a wide river, its waters fast and cold. The only bridge collapsed long ago. Arik looked around, spotting a fallen tree forming a natural crossing. Liara's eyes widened. "Are we going to cross there?" she asked, fear in her voice. "Yes," Arik said. "Hold my hand tightly." Step by step, they crossed the slippery trunk, balancing carefully, each moment threatening, the water roaring below, ready to swallow them if they slipped. Halfway across, a distant shout echoed from the forest. Enemy patrols had spotted signs of their passage. Arik quickened their pace. Liara's heart raced with fear. Yet she trusted him completely. They reached the far side safely, collapsing on the soft grass, breathing hard, relief and exhaustion mingling. "You were amazing," Liara said, her voice trembling with emotion. Arik smiled faintly. "We survived together," he replied. The forest opened to a clearing, but the danger was not over. Patrols could still be near. Arik scanned the horizon, seeing faint lights moving between the trees. Liara felt fear rising again, yet her trust in him was unshakable now. The bond between them had strengthened. They were no longer just soldier and princess, but allies and perhaps something more. Suddenly, a large shadow fell across the clearing. A patrol led by armored soldiers blocking the path ahead. Liara gasped, her body frozen with fear. Arik grabbed her hand, whispering, "Run with me." They dashed through the underbrush, arrows and energy blasts flying past. every step testing their courage and skill. The suspense was intense. Each second could be their last. Finally, they reached a hidden cave, damp and dark, but safe for a moment. Liara leaned against the wall, tears in her eyes. I didn't know humans could be like this, she whispered. Arik nodded. Sometimes bravery comes from the heart. Not weapons, he said, the fire of hope lighting in her eyes, knowing that survival required trust, courage, and determination. The night stretched ahead, full of unknown dangers, yet they were ready to face them together. The cave was quiet except for the dripping water echoing in the darkness. Arik and Liara huddled in a corner, catching their breath. The danger from the patrols still lingered. The forest outside was alive with unseen eyes. Every sound made Liara's heart race. She clutched Arik's arm, trusting him more than ever. Yet fear still gnawed at her. We need a guide to reach safe territory, Arik whispered, his eyes scanning the shadows. I know someone who can help, he said. Reaching for a communicator, he contacted an old ally, a local who claimed to know secret paths. Liara looked skeptical. Can we trust them? She asked, fear trembling in her voice. Arik nodded. We have no choice, he replied, courage steady in his tone. Soon a figure emerged from the trees. Cloaked and moving silently, a young alien named Kalen, claiming he would lead them safely through the enemy lands. Liara studied him carefully, noting the way he smiled too easily. Yet the promise of safety was tempting. Exhaustion and fear made it hard to refuse. Arik decided to trust him for now, hoping the risk would pay off. They began their journey with Kalen leading, moving through dense forests and over rocky hills. Liara noticed subtle glances he gave them. Something in his eyes didn't feel right. But she kept silent, trusting Arik's judgment. The shadows around them seemed to move faster, the wind carrying whispers of danger. Every step forward was uncertain. Every rustle of leaves made her jump. Hours passed, and Liara's unease grew. Kalen led them deeper into an unfamiliar part of the forest, where the trees were twisted and strange sounds filled the air. She whispered to Arik, I don't like this place. Arik glanced at her. His brow furrowed. Stay alert, princess, he said, his hand resting lightly on her shoulder, ready to protect her. Tension thickened like smoke in the air. Suddenly, Kalen stopped, pointing to a narrow valley. The safest path is this way, he said. His voice smooth, almost too calm. Arik nodded, but something in his instincts told him to be cautious. He slowed their pace, scanning the trees, noticing broken branches and disturbed soil, a sign that ambushes might be nearby. His gut tightened with suspicion. Without warning, a group of armored alien soldiers emerged from the shadows, weapons raised, surrounding them from every side. Liara screamed, fear ripping through her. Arik reacted instantly, pulling her behind him. Firing at the soldiers to create a path, the attackers advanced quickly, too coordinated, too prepared. Arik realized the betrayal. Kalen had led them into a trap. Liara gasped, He tricked us, her voice trembling with disbelief and anger. Arik nodded, determination in his eyes. We fight, he said simply, grabbing her hand, pulling her to cover. Energy blasts and shouts echoed through the valley, the air filled with smoke and the scent of burning plants. Liara's fear turned into adrenaline. She moved with Arik, following his lead. They ducked behind rocks and trees, Arik firing carefully, covering Liara as she tried to aim a small weapon he had given her. Her hands shook, but she managed to defend herself. The intensity of the ambush forced her to focus, her fear transforming into courage. Arik's skill and quick thinking saved them repeatedly, each moment of survival tightening the bond between them. The soldiers pressed closer, and Liara felt desperation creeping in. Yet Arik remained calm, whispering instructions, guiding her with precision. Move left now, he said, and they darted through a narrow gap between rocks, leaving some attackers behind. The betrayal weighed heavily on Liara, yet she trusted Arik more than ever, his courage inspiring her to fight alongside him. Finally, they reached a small ravine. Arik scanning for escape routes, Liara's mind raced, feeling shock and relief mixed together. The betrayal had been dangerous, but they survived because of teamwork and trust, she whispered. I should have seen it, Arik shook his head. Trust is a risk, princess, but bravery is what keeps us alive, she nodded, understanding that courage often meant facing danger even when betrayed. The forest grew darker, shadows blending with the mist. The patrols might still follow. Arik and Liara moved cautiously, hearts pounding, every rustle a possible threat. Yet the betrayal had taught them to be smarter, to rely on instincts. The fear in Liara's eyes was now mixed with determination. She would no longer be a passive victim. The princess was learning to fight and survive. By dawn, they reached a hidden river path, its waters reflecting the faint morning light, the ambush behind them. Yet the memory of betrayal remained. Arik glanced at Liara, seeing the mixture of fear and newfound courage in her eyes. "We are stronger because we survived," he said. Her nod silent but full of meaning, trust, courage, and resilience now shaping her spirit. The journey ahead was still dangerous. Enemy forces surrounded them and more threats awaited. But Liara felt a spark of hope, knowing that Arik would protect her, and together they could face anything. The betrayal had strengthened their bond, tested their courage, and prepared them for the even greater challenges ahead. The forest around them alive with unknown dangers, yet they pressed forward, ready to survive. The forest grew quiet as the first light of dawn filtered through the alien trees. Arik and Liara moved carefully, every step alert. The betrayal still fresh in their minds. Kalen's deception had tested their trust, but it also made their bond stronger. Liara clung to Arik's side, her fear mingling with determination. She had learned to rely on him, and her courage was growing. Arik led them to an overgrown path, one that was almost invisible beneath the vines and moss. He had discovered it years ago during a previous mission. It led to a place humans called the Hidden Sanctuary, abandoned long ago but once a safe haven for travelers and soldiers. Liara's eyes widened as she imagined safety, hope flickering in her heart for the first time in days. The path was difficult, twisted, and narrow, with roots and rocks threatening to trip them at every step. Liara stumbled once, Arik's hand steadying her instantly. "Careful," he whispered, "we are close." The sound of running water guided them, the forest slowly giving way to open terrain, and finally, they reached the entrance to the sanctuary, hidden behind a thick curtain of ivy. The walls were covered in moss, and the buildings were old, some crumbling from time, yet the place had a quiet, protective aura. Liara felt a sense of peace she had not known since being captured. She ran her hands over the cold stone walls. "Is this safe?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Arik nodded, a faint smile on his lips. "For now," he said, "we can rest here inside." The sanctuary was surprisingly intact. An old water fountain in the courtyard still flowing. Small rooms with broken furniture offered shelter. Arik guided Liara to a corner with blankets. "Rest here for a moment," he instructed, keeping watch by the entrance. Every shadow a potential threat, Liara sat, tears falling as relief washed over her, the weight of fear and exhaustion finally pressing down. She looked at Arik. You risked so much for me," she said softly, her voice trembling with emotion. He shook his head. "It is not about risk, Princess. It is about doing what is right." She nodded slowly, realizing that bravery and kindness were not limited to her people. Arik had shown her that humans could care deeply even across worlds. As Liara rested, Arik repaired old communication devices found in the sanctuary, hoping to send a signal to human forces. The task was slow, the equipment ancient, yet he worked meticulously, every tool. Every wire tested his skill and patience. Liara watched, fascinated. She had never seen such focus and determination. It was inspiring, and a quiet admiration grew in her heart. Hours passed, and the sanctuary became a temporary home. Liara explored cautiously, finding old murals depicting humans and aliens in harmony. She ran her fingers over the faded images, a small smile forming. The idea of peace between their worlds seemed possible here, safe from war and betrayal. Yet the reality of the world outside still pressed in. She knew danger would not wait forever. Suddenly, a noise at the entrance made them freeze. Arik's hand went to his weapon, eyes sharp. Liara pressed herself against him. Holding her breath, a small animal darted past, a harmless creature. Yet the tension reminded them that the outside world was still full of threats. Arik nodded at Liara. "Stay alert," he whispered, "even here. We must be careful," the lesson of betrayal lingering in their minds. Night fell, and the sanctuary took on a magical quality. Soft light from glowing plants illuminated the courtyard, shadows dancing on the walls. Liara finally allowed herself to rest, leaning against Arik, exhaustion overtaking fear. She whispered, "I feel safe." For the first time, he placed a protective hand on her shoulder. "We are together," he said, "and that makes us stronger." The bond between them deepening in silence. The hidden sanctuary offered more than safety. It gave them time to heal and reflect. Arik showed Liara old maps, explaining the secret routes to human territory, teaching her how to navigate. how to read signs in the forest. Liara listened, absorbing every word, learning skills that would make her more than just a princess in need of rescue. She was becoming a survivor, a warrior in her own right. As the stars appeared overhead, the forest quiet and watchful, Liara felt a spark of hope, knowing that the journey ahead would still be dangerous. Yet she was no longer alone. Arik's courage and guidance had given her strength, and the sanctuary, though temporary, had shown her a glimpse of a world where humans and aliens could coexist, the bond of trust and courage between them growing stronger with every passing moment. The night stretched on, full of quiet suspense, with the sounds of the forest echoing softly around them. Yet within the sanctuary walls, Arik and Liara found a fragile peace, a moment to gather courage for the trials yet to come, the human soldier and alien princess readying themselves for the next step in their journey, hearts bound by trust and destiny waiting just beyond the trees. The morning light filtered through the sanctuary's overgrown walls, painting the courtyard in soft gold. Liara sat on a broken bench, her hands clasped tightly, thoughts racing with fear, guilt, and hope. She had escaped the palace, survived betrayal, and crossed dangerous lands, yet now, she faced another kind of challenge. The choices of her heart. Arik approached quietly, his steps careful. Seeing the turmoil in her eyes, he did not speak at first, allowing her to gather her thoughts. The silence between them was heavy, filled with unspoken questions and emotions that neither could fully voice. Liara finally looked up, tears glistening. I don't know what to do, she whispered, voice trembling with conflict. Arik knelt beside her, placing a steady hand on hers. Princess, whatever choice you make, it must be yours, he said softly. But remember, you are stronger than you think and you are not alone. Liara's heart ached, torn between returning to her people, bound by duty, and staying with the human who had risked everything for her. A soldier who had become her protector, her guide, and her friend, I feel. So confused, Liara admitted, her voice barely audible. My people need me, but I trust you and I feel safe with you. Arik's eyes met hers, full of understanding and compassion. I cannot choose for you, Liara, he said. I only hope you see that courage sometimes means following your heart, even when it is difficult. The words sank deep into her, stirring a mix of fear and hope. Their quiet moment was interrupted by a distant rumble. The enemy patrols were moving closer, a reminder that their safety was fragile. Liara jumped slightly at the sound. Arik's hand tightened around hers. We must prepare, he said, standing, his tone firm but gentle. The confrontation is coming, and we must face it together, Liara nodded. Feeling the weight of responsibility, yet strengthened by his presence, Arik and Liara moved to the edge of the sanctuary, scanning the horizon, the forest beyond dark and threatening, tension thick in the air. Liara's thoughts were a whirlwind. She felt fear for herself, fear for her people, and a growing bond with Arik. The soldier's bravery and loyalty had changed her understanding of humans. She realized that trust and courage were powerful tools, stronger than weapons. Suddenly, a group of alien scouts appeared at the tree line, their eyes sharp and weapons ready. Liara's heart raced, fear gripping her, yet she felt a strange calm knowing Arik was beside her. He positioned himself protectively, his stance steady. Stay close, he whispered. We can do this. The words filled her with courage. She nodded, gripping a small weapon he had given her. Ready to defend herself, the scouts advanced, their movements calculated. Yet Arik and Liara remained focused, firing carefully, using the terrain and sanctuary ruins to their advantage. Liara discovered a new strength within herself. Aiming with precision, her fear transformed into determination. She fought not only for survival but for the trust and bond they shared, every moment sharpening her courage. After the initial clash, the scouts retreated temporarily. Giving them a brief moment to breathe, Liara's mind returned to the emotional weight she carried. She turned to Arik. I don't want to leave you, she admitted, her voice quivering. But I cannot abandon my people. Arik's gaze softened, understanding her struggle. Your heart is noble, he said, and your duty is important. Yet know that you have made a difference, not just to me, but to the world you are trying to protect. Liara's tears flowed freely, a mix of relief, gratitude, and sorrow. Arik knelt beside her again, offering quiet comfort. It is okay to feel torn, he whispered. Bravery is not just facing enemies, but facing your own heart. Liara nodded, understanding the depth of his words. The soldier's courage had inspired her, not only in battle, but in facing the impossible choices of life. As the day grew brighter, the forest around the sanctuary seemed less threatening. Yet the emotional confrontation within Liara continued. The balance between duty and trust weighing heavily, Arik remained by her side, patient and supportive, allowing her to process her feelings, teaching her that courage and compassion often walked hand in hand, even in the darkest times. By evening, Liara stood at the edge of the sanctuary, looking toward the horizon, the wind blowing through her hair. Arik beside her, both silent, the trust and bond between them unspoken but deeply felt. The emotional confrontation had left its mark, her heart strengthened, her courage deeper, ready for the trials yet to come. Knowing that whatever challenges awaited, they would face them together. The forest shadows lengthened, the sanctuary calm but alive with anticipation. Liara felt a spark of hope and determination, a quiet understanding that bravery came from the heart, and love and trust were as powerful as any weapon. The human soldier beside her had shown her this truth, and she would carry it forward into the dangers ahead, ready to confront enemies, betrayal, and her own fears with unwavering courage. The forest was alive with shadows as night fell. Arik and Liara ran through the undergrowth, hearts pounding, every step carrying the weight of danger. The enemy patrols were relentless, their lights flickering through the trees. The sound of distant shouts echoing in the darkness. Liara clutched Arik's hand tightly, trusting him completely, yet fear gnawed at her. "We have to move faster," Arik whispered. Glancing back, the patrols gaining ground, Liara nodded, determination replacing some of her fear. Every branch and root threatened to trip them, yet Arik's guidance kept them on course, his calm and focus giving her courage. They leaped over fallen logs and ducked under low branches, the adrenaline driving them forward. A sudden roar echoed through the forest, alien beasts disturbed by the chase, their eyes glowing in the dark, their claws scraping against rocks. Liara froze for a moment, terror overtaking her. But Arik pulled her behind a boulder, firing his weapon at the nearest creature. It hissed and retreated, yet the danger only added to the tension. Every second a test of skill and courage. The patrols were closer now, arrows and energy blasts cutting through the air. Arik grabbed Liara and pulled her through a narrow canyon, the walls jagged and slick with moss, the sound of their pursuers growing louder. Every step threatening, Liara's muscles ached, her breath coming in sharp gasps, yet she did not falter, her trust in Arik giving her strength. They reached a cliff overlooking a vast valley, the lights of the enemy camp flickering far below. Arik scanned the area quickly, spotting a narrow ledge that led to a hidden canyon. "This way," he said, urgency in his voice. Liara followed without hesitation, her fear tempered by courage. Step by step they edged along the cliff, the wind howling, threatening to push them off. Every movement precise and careful. Halfway along the ledge, an enemy scout spotted them, shouting, alerting the rest of the patrols. Liara's heart raced, but Arik held her hand, guiding her through a small opening in the rock, a hidden path that led downward into a shadowed ravine. The walls close, almost suffocating, yet they pressed on, adrenaline sharpening their senses, every sound echoing like a warning. They emerged into a river valley, the water rushing fast and cold. The only bridge swept away by recent rains. Arik scanned for a crossing, spotting a fallen tree forming a natural bridge. Liara's eyes widened, fear flashing across her face. "We have to cross," Arik said, extending his hand. "Hold tight," she grasped it firmly, stepping carefully onto the slippery trunk, the water roaring below. Every moment a test of balance and courage. Halfway across, a volley of energy blasts struck the riverbank, enemy forces firing recklessly. The tree shook beneath them. Liara clung to Arik with all her strength, heart pounding, yet she kept moving step by step, trusting him completely. At last they reached the far side safely, collapsing onto the wet grass, hearts racing, bodies trembling, relief washing over them briefly. Yet the chase was not over. They moved quickly through the river valley, the forest thickening, sounds of pursuit still echoing. Arik and Liara ducked behind rocks and fallen trees, firing carefully to slow down any enemies who got too close. Liara's hands were steady now, adrenaline sharpening her reflexes. She realized she could fight alongside Arik, no longer just a passive passenger. Her courage growing with each passing second. Suddenly, the enemy leader appeared at the edge of the clearing, a massive figure in dark armor, wielding a weapon that glowed ominously. Blocking their path, Liara gasped, fear gripping her chest, yet Arik stepped forward, shielding her, firing carefully. using the terrain to their advantage. Liara followed his lead, aiming at weak spots, the tension almost unbearable. Every shot a fight for survival. After a tense confrontation, they managed to slip past the leader and his guards. Moving into the dense forest, their final escape in sight, exhaustion and adrenaline mingling, yet they did not stop. Pressing on toward the human-controlled territory, Liara's heart soared with hope, knowing that they were so close to safety. The long journey of danger, betrayal, and trust finally nearing an end. At dawn, they reached the outskirts of a human base, the lights welcoming them like a beacon. Liara stumbled, overwhelmed with relief, yet Arik held her steady, whispering, "We made it." Tears ran down her face, a mix of fear, gratitude, and triumph. She realized the journey had changed her forever. She was no longer just a princess, but a survivor, and Arik had shown her courage, trust, and humanity in its purest form. As they entered the base, guards rushing to assist, Liara looked at Arik, gratitude shining in her eyes. "Thank you for everything," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "No, princess, thank you for trusting me." The bond between them stronger than ever, forged through danger, fear, and shared courage. The final escape complete, yet their story was far from over. The promise of hope and alliance shining in the morning light. The first rays of dawn stretched across the human base, painting the land in soft gold. Liara and Arik walked side by side, exhausted but alive. Their journey through betrayal, danger, and relentless pursuit finally behind them, yet a heavier challenge awaited. The emotional weight of parting. For Liara could not stay with Arik. Duty called her back to her people. Liara looked toward the horizon, the alien sky glowing faintly, her heart a mix of relief, gratitude, and sorrow. I don't want to leave," she whispered. Her voice trembling, Arik stopped, turning to face her, the wind lifting strands of her hair, his expression calm yet full of understanding. "I know," he said softly, "but your people need you, and you must be their strength." Tears filled Liara's eyes, yet she nodded, trying to hold back the emotions threatening to overwhelm her. Every step toward the boundary of the base felt like pulling her heart apart. She had come to trust humans, to understand courage in a new way, and Arik had shown her that compassion could exist even in the midst of war. A lesson she would carry forever. Arik placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "You have changed so much, Liara," he said. "You are braver than anyone I know, and your people will be lucky to have you back." Liara smiled faintly through her tears, the words giving her strength. Yet the knowledge of separation made her chest ache. She had grown attached to him, and the bond formed through danger and survival could not be broken easily. They walked toward the transport shuttle, the hum of engines filling the air. Liara's small hands gripped her belongings, a mixture of fear and determination in her eyes. She glanced at Arik, remembering every perilous step they had taken together. The ambushes, the betrayal, the hidden sanctuary, the final escape. Each moment shaping her courage and trust, making the farewell even more poignant. "Promise me," Liara whispered, her voice shaking. "Promise me that humans and my people can be allies, that there is hope for peace." Arik nodded firmly. "I promise," he said, sincerity in his eyes. "Because you have shown me that humans can rise above fear and hatred, and because your courage deserves a future of peace," she nodded, feeling hope amidst the sorrow, a spark that would guide her people forward. As the shuttle prepared to lift off, Liara turned fully to Arik, tears streaming freely. "Thank you. For saving me, for teaching me courage, for showing me trust," she said. Her voice breaking, Arik smiled faintly. "No, princess," he said gently. "Thank you for believing in humanity, for letting me fight by your side, for inspiring me with your bravery." They stood silently for a moment, the unspoken bond between them deeper than words. The shuttle lifted, its engines roaring softly, carrying Liara toward her homeland, the landscape shrinking below. Arik watched, his heart heavy yet proud. He had kept his promise, and she had survived, stronger than when she had begun, her tears glistening in the sunlight, each one a testament to the journey, the danger, the trust, and the courage that bound them together. Liara looked back one last time, her eyes meeting Arik's. The farewell filled with emotion and unspoken words, she whispered, "I will never forget you." Arik's voice was calm, yet filled with feeling. "Nor I you," he said, his hand raised in a quiet wave. The human soldier and alien princess, separated by duty but united by destiny, a connection forged in hardship and bravery. The shuttle disappeared into the horizon, leaving Arik alone on the hill, the sun rising higher, casting light on the scars and memories of the night's battles. Yet hope lingered. Liara's survival was a victory not just for her, but for humanity and the possibility of future alliance. He smiled faintly, knowing that even in parting, the courage, trust, and humanity they shared would continue to ripple outward. Liara, inside the shuttle, held on to the lessons she had learned, the bravery she had discovered within herself, and the trust she had found in a human soldier. The journey had changed her forever. She was no longer a frightened princess, but a symbol of hope, courage, and the bridge between worlds, a bittersweet farewell marking the start of a new future, full of promise and responsibility. As the shuttle disappeared into the clouds, Arik turned back toward the rising sun, his heart quiet but full. He had done what was right, saved a life and inspired a bond that might one day bring peace between humans and aliens. The world was vast and dangerous, yet courage, trust, and honor remained stronger than any weapon. The story ending for now, yet leaving a spark for what was yet to come.